Alrighty, guys. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the CaliUnity podcast. Today we've got Eddie, the man, the myth, the legend. I mean, most of you already know who Eddie is. If you're not, you're living under a rock. Eddie is the local superhero of Bath. No, absolute legend. First time he cuts my hair and he's doing a pretty bad job of that. No, absolute amazing guy. Eddie's the founder of Eddie Street Cuts, a local community project that's aiming to just kind of have conversations, I guess, with homeless people, help them out, cut their hair, and also works at BA1 Hair, local hairdresser, and also a member of CaliUnity for a while, and also a really good friend for years. So again, welcome to the podcast, Eddie.
Thank you.
What I wanted to do today is just to start off with is obviously people coming on here, people are busy, right? It's Christmas time. Why should we take an hour out of their lives to listen to this podcast? What do you reckon they'll get from this?
Good question. I think, you can get anything out of it really. I feel like, it could help someone.
Yeah.
It could help someone maybe open up, talk, if somebody's going through a struggle themselves, it might be able to inspire them and help them to share about what's really going on with that person. And I think I'm really honoured, that you've come and asked me to, talk with you and share and have some good conversations, and we can chat about the stuff which could hopefully inspire or help people. So I think it's a good thing that we can talk about this kind of stuff tonight, really. In depth.
100%. And we might say someone that might help someone, but we might help someone that might be talking to their friend. We might help someone just to ask their friend how they're doing. And we know we've both had people close to us. We'll go into all this. But I feel like the conversation around mental health, addiction, all of that needs to be spoken about, and needs to have more awareness spoken about it. And I mean, we all know you're an advocate of that, and we also know how amazing you are at spreading that word. So based on that, I think it'd be really good for the CaliUnity just to get a really good understanding of who's this amazing guy sitting in front of me, what's formed you, what's made you to who you are today, and from there they might relate to a few of those things. So take me back, Eddie.
Well, where do I start? We'll be here for a while. No, I'm joking. I'll keep it short. And I think you're completely right, Ollie. I think for me it's about passing that message. Because I'm so grateful that somebody who I'm close with, had been able to pass that message on to me as well. And so I will talk about, my experience, strength and hope, what it was like and how I got into recovery, and also what it's like today. And so I guess going way back really, I'm brought up by a loving family, a family that has always wanted to see me do well. And I had the privilege of living in a different country, in Spain. I lived in Spain for 5 years, from the age of 9 till 15. And you know what? They were the happiest days of my life. Living in southern Spain. I didn't know any Spanish, but when I got there, me and my brother were just chucked in, in the deep end, and we had to pick up the language and had to learn. And my parents have their own business. They're still together, and they have their own business, and they are estate agents. And and I remember that feeling of going over to Spain. I didn't want to leave my friends here. It was such a big thing, and to start this life in Spain. I was so, I was a little boy and I didn't know half the stuff what I knew today, but also, that experience of having that was just amazing. And I think from a very young age, for me, moving over from England to Spain, like I was saying, I didn't want to lose any friends or, and that fear of like, building all of that back up again. And went to a private school out there, went to a private school. I had good education in that sense. And, but I had this feeling from a young age that I didn't feel like I kind of belonged.
Right.
I felt like I didn't really fit in. And, I struggled a lot in school. I struggled academically. I'm not academic in the slightest, I was always in the lower sets. And even when I moved over to Spain, the first year they repeated me. So I was never in my actual age group as well. So I never really felt like I belonged. I didn't have this. And, I remember at the age of about 12, that's when I picked up my first drink. And I remember it really clearly. Alcohol. And my brother, he gave me some of my dad's alcohol from the cabinet, and I drank it, and it was like port or something, and drank it, and I absolutely loved it. I loved that feeling of what it gave me. It got rid of any fear, it got rid of any worry, and that warm, I remember it clearly. And within like however long, I blacked out, threw up everywhere. But that feeling of what it gave me, I chased that feeling, and within about 2 weeks or a week or however long, I was back at that alcohol cabinet, stealing the alcohol and drinking it and doing the same thing. And I was chasing that feeling, from a young age, that ease of what I thought was comfort. And and I guess really like my family have always wanted to see me do well. My family are like a loving, kind, caring, and I'm the youngest of 4, and I have a parent who's in recovery, and they've got 29 years sobriety.
Wow.
So this kind of like runs in the family as well. And
what was like your view of alcohol before you had that first drink?
Well, I didn't really think anything of it. Like I didn't really, I didn't know what it was, until I got given it, and I tried it, and I tasted, and I liked what it done to me. Like that was where I was like, bang, this is it. Like this is the stuff. Before I didn't know anything about it really. Like I'd never seen my parent drink. I was very lucky in that sense. I'd never seen them drink, that person drink, but so, and that person is the rock of the family, and that's something that I've learned today, is like that person is the rock of the family. And I'll touch on that a little bit later, but getting back from Spain to England, again, I found that really difficult. I didn't want to leave my friends in Spain. I had that same kind of like fear and worry, and coming to a completely different country where, I'm 15, I've hit puberty, and I'm cross addicted as well. Drugs were a big part of my madness. And when I picked up a drink for the first time at the age of 12, I soon went on to smoking weed, and did the exact same. I loved what it did. And coming from Spain to England, I found that really, really difficult because again, I didn't know anyone. I went to an all-boys school, went to Beach and Cliff, and I had that feeling like I just didn't belong, I didn't fit in. And I remember coming back from Spain to England, I thought, how am I going to get my drug of choice, which was cannabis at the time, how am I going to get that, and it doesn't take long for an addict to like find what they want, right? So, I started hanging around with the bad crowd, and at school, from that feeling like, I never felt like I belonged, so I would fit in with like, the sport people. I loved sport, always loved sport, but then I'd, also hang out with the kind of people who would smoke weed. I'd hang out with different kind of groups, a bit like a chameleon, but weed and alcohol made me, especially alcohol, made me, have that kind of confidence, to be able to feel a part. And at school, I was expelled for smoking weed, and my parents always fought my corner. Like, cut a long story short, I was allowed to get back into Beach and Cliff because they didn't follow guidelines or whatever. But we it was a really, really difficult time, for my family as well, because like they couldn't, I put a lot of fear and worry into them as well through my addiction. And my addiction, I started young and I ended young. And I got expelled from school, got back in, but I was so far behind, and I didn't know what direction to go. And I got into a lot of trouble with the police, started burglary, and I was lucky I was a minor. I was 16, 17. Otherwise I would have been put in prison for 5 accounts of burglary. And I was literally ready at the court with my bags, if the judge said, you'd either be, whatever, or you'd be sent off. And I was lucky enough that I wasn't put in, and I did a year's worth of community service. But yet again, I still thought that I didn't have a problem.
Right.
And that was like, that was because addiction, it is a self-centered illness. All you care about is yourself, and all I cared about was how am I going to get my next fix, and it's a progressive illness as well, because from first trying it to school and then to leaving school, that progression got worse and worse and worse, and when I left school I went straight into hairdressing. So and that's what I am today. I'm a barber, hairdresser by trade.
That's a good one.
Thank you. And that's taken a lot of years of graft and to work hard on. But that's something I've always known I wanted to do.
So in that moment when you got expelled, and you had those rock bottoms in a way, right? Did you ever have that feeling of wanting to stop but you couldn't?
Not at this point. Like I didn't really experience a rock bottom at that point. Like for me, it was more like I didn't care. I really didn't care. I didn't care about who I was hurting. Especially my family.
It's usually the ones closest to us, right?
Exactly. And I just thought I'm having fun. Leave me alone. Anything that got in the way of my drinking, I would literally tell it to F off. It would have to go. And my family was part of that. I pushed them away. I pushed my friends away, my closest friends away, because all I cared about was drinking drugs and chasing that high. Chasing that fix from what I was feeling at that young age. That was what I was chasing. It's that security and that confidence. I thought to have a drink, to go out and into town or to meet people, I'd have to have something in me to have that, to be able to do that.
Sure.
And that was just a drug or a drink. And, so my rock bottoms kind of came along more or less later. I got sacked from a job and due to my drinking, and so I went up to a salon which I am now at BA1 Hair in Bath, and even at that point when I got sacked, you know, I knew I still wanted to do hairdressing, and I went there and asked for a job, and I got offered the job, and jumped in, and you know, I cannot thank my work enough for, you know, the kindness and the support that they gave me through my active alcoholism, you know, and they didn't know what was going on between the four walls at home either, you know, and they gave me chance after chance. And I think that is a really important thing, you know, in any workplace, you know, have more of an understanding than a judgment, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
Because, you know, I was lucky that they gave me that chance, and, you know, I wasn't ever a bad person, you know, I wasn't a bad person. Everybody has a bit of good and a bit of bad, right? But my addiction was rife at that, you know, and I was blinded by the light, you know, I just didn't, we are the last persons to see that we had that problem, you know, and I was in complete denial, and, you know, work, like, I managed to just hold down the job, you know. I remember very clearly when I was just passing my exam to become qualified as a hairdresser, I had a week of basically like to do my models for my third year exam, and I had a week off work, but I used that week just to get absolutely rat-assed, and I left it till the last couple of days, the 2 days, to scrape models, to find some people so I can cut their hair. And, you know, that was just how it was, you know, and that almost getting found out about it was like such a relief, because my head trainer at the time rang my mum, was like, Eddie's supposed to be in doing his models, but he's not in, you know, like, where is he? And I was hungover, and I was like, crap, I need to find these models, like, get it together. But, you know, that was just how it was. And, you know, fast forward in a little bit, like, you know, work, you know, like I was saying, they were super kind to me, and you know, I would have continuous episodes, blackout drinking, and it just got progressively worse. And I'd say when I was about 20, I was 20. I had a huge cocaine addiction and drinking. You know, my work colleagues would be like, what did you get up to last night, Eddie? And I was just like, oh, not a lot, just chilled out. But I was in the back fields drinking bottles of cider, roaming around streets of Bath on my own, sitting outside Julian House, like, just alone. Do you know what I mean? That complete aloneness. And I was living that double life, you know, I was a functioning alcoholic. So I drank and used around my work, but that doesn't mean I ever came into work clean, because I barely did, you know. I was still drunk or high, and work knew. I'm pretty sure they did know, but, you know, I could try and hide it the best I could. And and I remember when you know, I basically had a bender, didn't turn up to work, and that was like a continuous kind of episode of what I'd get up to. Turn my phone off, and it got to the point where my boss had to cancel his clients, come out looking for me, and like, this is the worry, like, and I just like didn't know I had a problem, you know, and that is like the denial of it. And you know, he called the police, you know, and the worry and the fear, you know. My parents used to like pick me up from the police station, you know, I'd spend nights in cells, and my mum just absolutely dreaded that knock on the door, you know. This is before, when I was at BA1, you know, like, whether it was the police, and they'd call my parents, and like, they'd think I'd be dead in the river, do you know what I mean? Like, that's the fear of like what I put my family through. And you know, and this weekend, like, that binge was no different. And I had that choice, you know. I could either go, you know, I had a party for one, a cocaine party for one in my bedroom, and you know, I got what I wanted, and I was that stranger, that ghost in the family, you know. And I just shut myself off, and I would secretly drink, and I'd go up to my room, and I was like, that's it, me, the drugs and the alcohol, and I'd do it, and I'd be up all night, and I got so paranoid that I thought my parents were arguing downstairs at 4:00 in the morning, but I was just like hearing stuff. Wow. And I had no sleep, and I got up, and that dreaded fear, that anxiety of going into work that morning was just unbelievable. And I got up like an hour before I was supposed to get to work, done my teeth, and I could either go left to work or take that right, and I took that right, and that binge just carried on. And that's when I turned my phone off, and my boss came out looking for me, and my mum was frantically worried, and that Monday morning came, and I arrived at my mum's after that binge, and I was alone. I was on my own pretty much all of it, just drinking, met up with people who drank and used like me as well, and I was suspended then off 2 weeks off work, and my boss said to me that Monday morning, he was like, "You're suspended." Well, he rang me. I was suspended, and those 2 weeks, it got worse. It progressively got worse. I stole a large amount of money off my mum and dad, and to feed my habit, and again, like that secrecy of meeting the dealer and coming back, waiting for my parents to go to sleep, taking my dad's credit card, meeting the dealer, coming back. It was like a second-hand job. It was fucking tiring. And that was the point, Ollie, like you were saying, like earlier, like, did you ever like using against your will? That was that point when I was like, I really don't want to do this. Right. But this is the only way I can feel normal. Yeah. It got that bad. And right. Work, I wasn't working at that time, and when I was taking that money, I got found out, and that relief again of getting found out, I was like, thank God I got found out, because I couldn't go on like that anymore, and it got me to a place where, like, back then when I was 13, 14, going into 15, 16, I loved it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I loved alcohol, I loved drinking, I loved free parties, I loved going up to the Crescent and meeting my friends. My drinking was different. My using and drinking was different from my friends. I was extreme, and it got me exactly where it wanted. Alone, I was in my bedroom doing drugs on my own, and like, using with other addicts who use like me, but then the denial of it was like, well, I've got a job, I've got a home, these guys don't have any of that, like, so I'm all right, and that is like the insanity of it, right?
Before we get to the solution, I've got two really pressing questions. So you said there how you didn't drink like your friends. Do you think you were an alcoholic before you took the first drink? Was it a disease? Because I feel like the public connotation of this, don't get me wrong, some people don't believe this, some people do, it's like, oh, just get a grip, Eddie. Why don't you just, come on, just stop, right? So, and we both know the reality of that, right? Yeah. So like, what, in your eyes, like, can you explain maybe to them or to someone who's going through this, kind of what the way you think about it in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it can be, like I was saying at the beginning, like of my journey, of my story, like I was brought up by a loving family, like I don't think, like, if you're an addict or an alcoholic, like, I don't know, like, whether you're born with it or like, like I was saying, one of my parents is in recovery. It can be a family illness as well, and I strongly believe that is the case, because me and this parent, I can't say who it is because of their anonymity, but like, we are so close and we are so similar in that sense, and that person could see it from the get-go in me when I was little, like they were like, so later on, like you know, it came to that point where I was like, I knew I had a drinking problem and a using problem. You know, when I got found out with that money and in suspended from work, blacking out all the time. Mm-hmm. I was always a blackout drinker, mm-hmm. but it got worse. And mm-hmm. like that point, like when I got found out, that was when, maybe a light bulb moment happened, and I was like, maybe something to do with my drinking is like, am I using? This is why I'm doing this, you know? So, and my parent, who's in recovery, you know, they said, why don't you try and meet him?
Right.
You know, that this person has been sober for 29 years and goes to meetings, does the 12-step program, and I said, okay, like I'll go. Like I had nowhere else to go. Like I burnt all bridges. I had dealers coming around my mum and dad's work. Like like to pay off my debt. I had nowhere to go. Like, and I just thought, you know what, I'll do it. Like
so it was at that low moment when it was rock bottom. That's when you went, okay, I need to do something else.
Yeah. And at that point, like, and this is something that I kind of like embed whenever I talk about, and I will share my experience, strength and hope, like in a meeting, in a recovery meeting or whatever, or with another addict, alcoholic, like, and this is something I've really had to embed in my recovery as well, is that like, I had nowhere to go, like, but I was doing it for other people, you know. I said I would go to a meeting and I would change for other people, you know, for my mum and my dad and my work, you know, but this is something that I've had to do for myself, you know, and I was doing it for them, to get them off my back, you know, to get my mum and dad off my back. All right, I'll go to a meeting, okay. But, you know, at that moment, I knew I had a drinking problem and a using problem. And so I went to meeting.
So your first meeting?
Yeah, so that's when I went to my first meeting. And, you know, like I was saying, like, and this is something else that I've really had to embed in my recovery, and I share with other people who are going through the same stuff, or, you know, are just getting into recovery, or they may think they have a drinking or drug problem, is that, you know, I knew I had a problem with substances, with drugs, but I thought I could drink like a gentleman, you know. I thought I'm okay with drink, like, I don't have a problem with it. And I know today, and this is something that I've learned, that it both comes hand in hand. You know, whenever I drank, I wanted to use, and vice versa. And so I had about 2 weeks of going to meetings, and this is the fellowship 12-step program.
Yes.
And because, you know, I was lucky enough that I had a parent who is in recovery, and, you know, that person would give me, when I was in my thickest active alcoholism, like that person would give me a 12-step pack or something, and like I just didn't want to know. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't ready, and like I put it at the back of my drawer. I was like, I don't, like, again, like anything that got in the way of my using and drinking, I was just like, get out. Like, I don't want to know. Like, I don't have a problem. You know, you're the problem. This is the problem. And so, but like, you know, getting to my first meeting, like, this is kind of where like things just, the seed was planted, you know. Like, I was introduced to my first sponsor. Now, a sponsor is someone who goes through the 12 steps. And at the time, he wasn't my sponsor. This person, he would meet up with me at Cafe Nero, you know, before a meeting, and he would, in the fellowship, we have a big book. It's a blue big book, and basically the blue big book is what has helped and saved millions of lives, you know, and we use this book as a tool and a way of living, and to help other addicts and alcoholics. And he would read part of this passage of the big book, you know, so to see if I could identify, and we would talk, and, you know, he bought me coffee, and I just didn't understand. I didn't know why this stranger I don't know, who like was passed through from my parent as like an intervention kind of thing, was so kind to me and loving, you know, like I couldn't even love myself, you know, I couldn't trust myself, you know, I was so broken at this point, like, but like anything to try and like do something to make something better, you know, and this person was just given that kindness and love. And I really strongly believe, you know, in my early sobriety, without that love and kindness that people shown me, you know, in the fellowship, in the 12-step program, and also outside, you know, I don't think I'd be here today. You know, that unconditional love, that kindness, and that is what the fellowship is about. Yeah. You know, it's that support, and you know, that person showed me that. And like I was saying, like, you know, I knew I had a problem with drugs, but I didn't know I had a problem with drink. Right. And
so in that moment, we know the answer, but in that moment, did you think you could just do it on yourself? You could just quit yourself. So, you know, you said you wanted to quit. Why didn't you? Did you try to hide things? Did you try to like take it back into your own will?
Yeah. Like I was still in complete denial. Right. Like I was still like, you know, I still thought I could drink okay. Like, you know, I thought, right? And I thought drink isn't the issue. Right. You know, drugs are. Yeah. But, you know, alcohol is a drug. Yeah. You know, and whenever I drank, I wanted the other stuff. Yes. And I would cause chaos, and I wouldn't turn up to work, and I would be fighting or get arrested or whatever, you know. And so, you know, and, you know, I went to meetings for about 2 weeks, and, you know, those 2 weeks, you know, that seed was planted, you know, and, you know, I wasn't ready, you know, I think that was it. Just, I wasn't ready, you know, I had to hit a real rock bottom, you know, I had to hit that depth. And I had another year, I was 20 at the time, and I had, you know, and I knew at this point I had a drink, you know, a drinking and drug problem. But like, you know, again, it's that baffling thing of like, I don't think it's an issue, you know, I was so confused, like I just didn't, you know, I didn't know, you know. And
take me through like walking into that first meeting, like how did that feel? I know you mentioned you met your first sponsor and there was love and kindness, but God, even just walking there, just getting into those doors.
Mate, I was scared. Yeah. Like I was so scared. Yeah. Like vulnerable. Yeah. Like I didn't know what the hell was going on. Why am I here? Like obviously nobody comes to the fellowship, like 12-step program, if they haven't got a drinking problem or drug problem, right? Yeah. Like that's clear. But like I was like so confused, like you know, and yet I was still thinking outwards, you know, this is the problem, that's the problem, you know, I'm not really the problem, you know. I was still in that stage. And I remember I was scared, man, like really scared. But you know what it was like, and I've learnt this, you know, having these little 8 years of sobriety today, just over 8 years, and what I've learnt is that everybody in that room is there to get well. Yeah. You know, they don't really give a damn about you. They do because you're new and you're like just come in and like you're struggling and you're in that horrible place. Of course they do, but like they're also there for themselves and to get well. And you know, I had 2 weeks of doing meetings, but again I thought like I don't have a problem with drink, and I had another year out there, and that year was utter hell. You know, utter hell. The blackout drinking just got even worse. You know, I remember when my boss, well, I'll get into that. At my work, one of my work colleagues got married, and they had a wedding at Homewood. I think it was Homewood Park, and. That weekend, my parents went away. I was still living at home, and my parents went away, and they left me on the house alone. And I was like, great, cocaine party for one, you know, like I can get what I want, do what I want. And I remember it was a Friday, and I had work the next day, and I got what I wanted, got what I needed, took it back home, done it all, passed out. And, you know, I cringe about this now, but like, I was so gone. Like, I had my work business card, and I put it on the table, and I had a pile of Coke next to it, and I just put it on Instagram. Like, and I vaguely remember my work colleague messaging me saying, "Eddie, what the hell are you doing? Get that off there now!" And I was just like, I woke up on the sofa. God only knows how I got up, but I got up, shot to work on time, and you know, I'd done my day of work, and my boss pulled me in after and was like, "What the hell was that about, Eddie? Like, that is just like a next level." And, you know, again, I blamed that on someone else. I said, that wasn't me, that was my brother that did that. I would never do something like that, put like a pile of Coke up to like a business card. Like, I'd never do that, my brother did that. And so that evening was my workmate's wedding, and I got home and my brother was there, and I was just like, I said to my brother, I really don't want to go to this wedding, like I am absolutely dreading it. And he said, "Oh, just go, like you have a good time." And like, you know, mate, I was ill. I was like hungover and sweating and shaky, and like I was just like, don't want to go. And I knew there was a free bar there as well. You know, there was going to be drink. And I got there, and I was like, priority before, I'm like, I'm not going to drink. I'm going to have a sober night. I'm not going to drink. And this is the utter powerlessness of it, right? Of addiction. Like, I saw that free bar and I went boom, straight to it. And I drank, and, you know, I got into, that night was just chaotic. But I ended up waking up in Henrietta Gardens with a dog walker kicking me, pretty much checking to see if I'm alive, you know. And I remember coming round and got up, and that fear again, that utter fear and anxiety. I was like, how am I going to get rid of this? How am I going to get rid of this? And the only way to do it is to pick up another drink, you know. And I got home, and my brother was at home, and he was like, "What the hell, Eddie? What the hell did you do last night?" Because what happened was I went out with my boss, and after the wedding, and my boss saw my brother, and he was like, "You're an idiot for putting that up on social media with the cocaine." But my brother was like, what the hell are you on about? And, you know, my brother was just like giving me it there. I had this awful like feeling of what happened, what did I do? And, you know, the only thing to do again is just to drink, you know. And this kind of thing, what I'm saying, Ollie, like this kind of like episode is just how it was, you know. And it progressively got worse, and my drinking at that stage just become just me and it was just like me and, you know. And you know it's a progressive illness, you know. Like, you know, I call it the yet. Like, I could have been, you know, I was heading to that place of, you know, I never drank a litre bottle of vodka in the morning. I never done that. Do you know what I mean? But I used in the morning. I did drink occasionally. But, you know, that is where it was taking me, you know, and that's where addiction takes you. It takes you to jails, institutions, or death, you know. And I was heading that way. You know, my work was already on a fine line. And, you know, that year, when I was 20, you know, was utter madness. And, you know, I never went to treatment, you know, I never went to rehab. You know, I was very lucky. I found the rooms of the fellowship, the 12-step program. And I don't say what it is because I know the anonymity, you know, so I say 12-step program. And if you guys want to know what that is, look it up. It's everywhere, the 12-step program. It's on TV, it's on films now, but, you know, the tradition of it is that, you know, you don't break that anonymity of the fellowship. So I always say 12-step program. And, you know, again, Ollie, that seed was planted. You know, I knew, you know, I remember it very clearly, the 27th of July, 2015. And that weekend wasn't any different from any other weekend. I remember coming down the stairs at my parents' house and I was sweating, I was shaking, and it was a Monday morning, and my nieces were there, and it was just quiet. They were just, I remember the look on their faces. My mum was just like, oh God, here we go. And I remember very clearly my dog at the time, she had her tails in between her leg and she just went straight to her basket. It was like the ghost, I was that stranger in the family. And my mum just looked at me and she just said, "You're not well, are you?" And I said, "I'm not. I'm really, really not." And, something in me in that morning, and I don't know what it is, Ollie, but, I didn't want to go on like that anymore. Yeah. I was sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. My world had become so small. I'd burnt all bridges. I'd piss everyone off. I was alone. I was really alone. And, and I'd done some things in my using and drinking that I ain't proud of, that I would, swear to God I wouldn't tell anyone else. But, through getting into sobriety, I'm able to share about these things and tell people about these things, which are so important. Just stuff that I'm kind of ashamed of, really. Do you know what I mean? It's like that, but that wasn't me. That was the addiction, stealing off my grandma, and, handbag snatching and just the chaos of it. And
that's a scary thing. You got to the point where you're so powerless that even when you wanted to stop, you couldn't.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And how long, so when you went to your first meeting, how long after that was that time when you were like, I had enough?
About a year.
Right.
That year, just under a year, that was like the extreme of my drinking. Like I was saying, mate, addiction is a progressive illness, and I see it today. I'm lucky in a sense, I have gratitude that I started young, but I ended young. I came into recovery at 21, and that year, I knew I had a problem with drinking drugs. It became that, and I just didn't know how to stop. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know how to stop. But, that Monday morning coming down the stairs and my mum looking at me saying, you're not well, you know what to do. And, I went back upstairs to my bedroom and I just went on my knees on my bed and I just prayed. I was just like, please, something, just help me. And, that was where that seed was planted, Ollie. I'd had a taste of recovery before, and I thought about it. I thought, I'm going to ring this person, who I'm very close with, or was very close with. And, she was also young. She is young, and she was young in recovery. She's also a hairdresser. And, I remember seeing her when I was in the thick of my addiction in Adventure Cafe, and she wasn't drinking. And I was out with my work colleagues, and I was just mind-sweeping drinks off the table and being a bit of a nightmare, and went outside and I spoke to her. And she knew who I was because she knew my parent who was in recovery. So I looked at her and I was like, why aren't you drinking? How can you not drink in a bar? It was baffling. I couldn't understand it. And she was like, she just said, I'm in the program. I do this. And that moment I was like, okay, she's young, she's cool. I want what she's got, but I didn't know how to do it, and I had to hit that rock bottom. I had to. And I had to start doing it for myself as well. And, I rang that person and she took me to meetings, and, something in me, changed, from then, I had to, there's four things, I had to put action, honesty, willingness, and I had to change.
Yeah.
And, I had to do all those four things, I had to be honest with myself, I had to really be like, I've got this problem, and I've got to do something about it, and, it's amazing, really. Like, that's where my journey of recovery started, really. Somebody planted that seed, that message. And yeah, I'm lucky I've got a parent in recovery, but they can't do my recovery for me.
Yeah.
Right? Like no one can do something for you. You've got to do it yourself. You've got to make that leap of faith, and that's what I had to do, is make that leap of faith, to surrender, throwing that white towel, and so yeah, I started hitting meetings, and that person taught me a lot, how to sit in a coffee shop where they sell alcohol, without drinking. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, small things like that, like I was building my life back up, and my smell started coming back, my taste, and all of these things, like from where I was obviously like, I couldn't, with the Coke and stuff, I couldn't smell or taste. And the colours, I was no longer looking down, I was looking up, I was looking at the trees and having this gratitude. And, they say like to do 90 meetings in 90 days, but I couldn't do that because I was working. I had a full-time job, and that's what I'm grateful for. I had that structure, work never sacked me, they gave me that chance. And, I guess that's where my journey of recovery started, really. It was, if we can talk about street cuts, we can get into that, right?
Yeah, I mean, quickly on that, what a journey, man. I know 8 years sober, right?
8 years, yeah, just over 8 years.
What would you say to someone who has an employee who might be going through this, or a son, right, or a friend, and they maybe have or haven't gone through recovery? Maybe they have no idea. Maybe they have some negative connotations about it. What would you say to that person about helping the other person, seeing them go through that?
Yeah, like I think like there is that kind of like, people can look at addicts or alcoholics who are in the thick of it, and they can be angry at that person. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this all the time and drinking and causing chaos or whatever, but you can never be angry at that person. I always say, like, be angry at the addiction. That's what you got to be angry at. And there's a difference between like enabling and loving.
Sure. Yeah.
Really good point. Love can kill. Like my family. My parents were enabling me in my addiction, especially one of my parents who was in recovery. They were enabling me, and that's not the right way. They had to give me tough love at the end, and let go with love, so I could really fall down on my own knees and ask for that help, because they fought every corner. They picked me up from the police station. They would ring my work. They would ring my boss to say that, make up a lie or an excuse for me, but I had to fall on my own knees. My family were putting money aside ready for me to be in a bedsit. I couldn't even manage myself, do you know what I mean? Let alone like being able to like live on my own. I'd be on the streets, but that's something that, I think, if someone's going through it, just to be kind, never give up hope. On that person. I think that's the most important thing. And if it's a work colleague as well, I think it's important for them to try and open up, but you can never ram recovery down someone's throat. Like that's not how it works. They have to do it for themselves, and they have to reach that point to be able to help themselves first. And it's that little window of opportunity. You've got to grab it. And I just think, just to be there, I really just think like, if someone's in a work environment, in the fellowship, we have people come in into schools or into works or into prisons, and we talk about, the program and alcoholism and all of that. And if somebody could just do that, come into, have that intervention, maybe, that could be a message of hope for them. But I think they've got to be ready themselves to be able to hear that.
Yeah. they have to take that role by themselves. And then from there, I guess Eddie Street Cuts came from there. So what was the start of that?
Yeah. So like as soon as I like got into recovery, this was something that I, when you're in active addiction, all you care about is yourself and who you're gonna. For me, it was like, how am I going to get my next drink? Who am I going to manipulate, steal off my family, lie? But when you get into recovery, you become selfless, and you want to, I think every addict, recovering addict, alcoholic, experiences this, because this is how it works. It's that service of giving back.
Yeah.
And I saw my boss doing the soup run. In Waitrose, and I loved it. I was about a year clean, and in the program they talk about act of service keeps you clean, keeps you sober, giving back, because it's such a huge part of the the triangle. Unity.
You got to give it away.
Exactly. Unity, service, recovery.
Sure.
And I loved it. I said to him, I was like, I'd love to do that and help you out with that. And he said, yeah, come along, come and do it. So I went down to Waitrose car park, and we were at Barthwick St Mary's Church doing the sandwiches and soup, and we took it to Waitrose. And, I saw these men and women, and young as well, and, long hair, like not clean, and sleeping rough. And, I just had this thought. I thought, I said to my boss Phil, I said, why don't we start cutting hair for the homeless? I think, we have a skill in cutting hair, and why don't we do this and start cutting hair for the homeless? And that was one thing. When I came home and I told my mum about this, and she actually came up with the idea of me doing haircuts for the homeless. She said you could get in touch with the local community, the local hostel at Julian House, and because I absolutely loved doing the soup run. It was that service, and that's where I said to my boss, and he loved the idea, so we started doing it, and we got in touch with Julian House, and we were there once a month, and other hairdressers started to see what we were doing and wanted to get involved. And it kind of grew from there, really. Wow. Like that was about 7 years ago, and
it's pretty early into recovery as well then.
Yeah, and it's been a huge part of my recovery, because like what you're saying, like to be able to keep it, I got to give it away, and this isn't to say like every homeless person is an addict or alcoholic, but when they sit in that chair, it gives them that sense of trust, with me, and it allows them to open up as well, because they feel safe, and and I never ram recovery down someone's throat. If when they open up and they talk about their problems and their struggles, and that allows me to then open up and share about my experience, strength and hope, how I got into recovery. And I'll talk about this story, briefly, Ollie, because I think this was such a poignant part in the street cuts when I was doing it. And I think this was such a poignant part in the street cutting. It was about 4 years ago. I was in the streets of Bristol, and BBC had asked to do a little article, a little piece on it, a bit of filming, and I said, yeah, that's fine. So I met the reporter on the streets of Bristol, and I just said, give me a minute, I'll give you a call once I've found someone whose hair I can cut. Doesn't take long around Bristol, there's like homeless people in every doorway pretty much, and I approached this person, and he was sitting in the doorway, and I said to him, I got down onto his level, and I always get down on their level, whenever I do street cutting, I always like to be on their level, and I say, how are you, I do free haircuts, and would you like a free haircut? And 90% they're like, yeah, definitely. And this person, Alex, jumped on that. He was like, mate, I'd love a haircut. And I said, the BBC are going to do a bit of filming, would you mind? He was like, not at all. So met up with this reporter, came back up, sat in Castle Park and in Bristol, started cutting his hair. And he was telling me how, like, when he was in jail, like, he used to do hairdressing and barbering, like do haircuts for his inmates in there and stuff like that. And we just got on really well. And then that was that, and like said goodbye to him, and we went our different ways. And about 2 weeks later, I went back to Bristol to do some more street cutting, and I saw Alex again. And he wasn't well. Like, he was sat in a doorway, and he'd been smoking spice. And he said, I remember him saying to me that he's had a really bad headache. And I said, like, look after yourself, mate. Take some ibuprofen. Just take it easy. And within a couple of days, weirdly, like, I had a message on the Facebook, on the Street Cut Messenger on the Facebook, and this lady said, I'd seen your article, your filming on the BBC, and she's from Wales, and said that person's hair who you're cutting is my brother, and I've been told he's dead. And he's died of a heroin overdose. Can you help me find him? And I said, yeah, of course I can. Like, I only saw him like not that long ago. And so, like, with the contacts who we volunteer with, and I got some numbers, and I'm passing them on to this lady. And anyway, she managed to go through some people, and she managed to find her brother.
Wow.
And that is the power of, like, street cutting as well. It's that connection. Like, if I hadn't met that person and done his hair, she probably wouldn't have found her brother. And she thought that he was dead. Anyway, when he was sat in that doorway, he actually he got arrested that day, and he had a brain seizure. And luckily, I know it sounds weird, luckily he did get arrested because he had the brain seizure. Now, if he was on his own, he would have died.
Wow.
So he got put into the French hospital, and this is where, like, she couldn't find him, and then she got located that he was in the French hospital, where she thought he died of heroin. And so that connection, that interconnection happened. And I visited him in hospital, and me and my mum would go up, and I cut his hair, and and that is it. It's about building that connection and building that friendship with people on the streets, and that is a huge part of my recovery, is to be able to do that.
People don't realise it, but it also helps you, right?
Definitely.
It's like it's connection is the opposite of addiction.
Definitely.
And it's like, you have to, in order to keep it, you have to give it away, but just sponsoring someone or helping someone else helps you.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? I love it. So, what's Eddie Street Cuts up to nowadays?
So, we're up to all sorts, aren't we, Ollie?
well, let's get to that, I guess. Should we go on to that?
Yeah, man. Yeah, definitely. Like,
right. So, we'll go on. You go for it.
We've done lots, like, with street cuts, like fundraising, and we did a great fundraiser a couple of years ago before COVID, and all the money fundraising goes towards hair equipment and insurance, and it means that we can have more volunteers come on board with us, and obviously, like, travel as well. But yeah, mate, we have got something planned, haven't we? We've got an idea, so we are going.
Should we tell the story of us?
Yeah. So you say this, mate.
Well, okay, I'll tell it from my perspective.
Yeah.
So I was doing this stupid challenge of running 4 miles every 4 hours for 4 days for November, which is Men's Mental Health. And I think I was 8 miles in or something. So nothing. I had 92 miles to go, and I was like, okay, let's split this up. Let's go get a haircut. Right. So I got my haircut at Eddie's, and I went in and he sits me down and he's all excited. He's like, Ollie. And there's the usual spot that I sit in. He takes me to this back spot. He sits me down and he goes, I want to do something cool. You up for doing lead jog? I was like, what? He's like, yeah, cycling from the north of England to the south of England. And I was like, yeah, I'm keen. Like, why not? Let's do it. And he said he's got some mates on board that I'm also really good mates with. And I was super keen to do it. I also mentioned that I always wanted to run it as well. So run from the south of England to the north of England. I mentioned that I wanted to do it. I didn't say I was going to do it, but I mentioned I was like,
he's going to do it.
That kicked me in the arse later, let's just say that. But in that moment, I was just like, why not?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'll share about this another time, but I've had problems with addiction and stuff in the past, and nothing's as hard as getting through that. Nothing.
Yeah.
And so cycling 1,000 miles is fuck all compared to quitting any of that stuff. Trust in doing that, and it's just like, well, it gives you that faith, and it gives you that trust in yourself and in your higher power, knowing that you can do something like that, right? And immediately when anyone else says anything about anything they want to do, setting up a new business, doing something hard with fitness, for example, my girlfriend said one day she wanted to do an Ironman, and so I booked her onto it the next day. And a friend of mine said he wanted to get into uni, so I bought him all the books, and I was like, I'm studying you every single day, let's do this. And so when Eddie said that, I was like, whatever it takes, let's do it. And so, cut a long story short, we've done a few cycle rides. We're planning it all now. But probably like next summer, we're going to try. Well, we're not going to try. We're going to cycle from the north of England to the south of England, over 1,000 miles.
That's exactly it. And the other lads are going to be doing it with us as well. And I just think, Ollie, mate, you're on it. Do you know what I mean? Like because obviously we're doing it with the other guys as well, and then I thought, hold on, I know someone else who would want to do it as well, and he would be well up for it. And obviously you've done your Ironman as well, and you know a lot about your road bikes, and this is it, isn't it? Like we're going to be a team, and like it's a lot of planning, obviously. Like you know your stuff about bikes. Like if we have a puncture or whatnot, one of us is going to be a bit of a map. I'm going to be the fundraiser. Like, do you know what I mean? We all have our own bit. But what's cool about it as well is like we're going to be raising money for 3 organisations, right? So Eddie Street Cuts, Off the Record, which you are very close with, and was your chosen charity, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. That was mainly sparked. Sorry, what was the last one? Who was the last charity?
And Bosch, Bristol's outreach service for the homeless.
Off the Record for me, I've always done work with Bath Mind, Movember, Mind, but I didn't actually realise Off the Record was a thing. Being honest. And I went to one of their events about a month ago and was absolutely blown away by their work and what they do. A few of the members of the gym are big donators / I think are on the board maybe, and just going to one of the events, I was like, right, this is fantastic. And obviously me and you are pretty young in that whole world, and even the other day I was speaking to a friend, I actually told you this, I was speaking to a friend who I'm not going to name of course, who came to me and told me about all the problems that he's going through and how he just can't get any help for it. He doesn't know where to go to, and the only person he knows who talks about this stuff is me. In terms of like that world, there's obviously tons of people around, but there's people like Off the Record, like this podcast. If just one person listens to this and says, maybe in a year's time, I remember what Eddie said about going to his first meeting. Maybe I should try that. Or at least they know that this is a thing, or maybe they have a friend who they can talk to. And if it just gives a bit of empathy or sympathy or a bit of bit of knowing what it's like to be on the inside of that mind, that's worth it.
Yeah,
100%. So off the record's huge for that.
Yeah, and also like off the record, I went through when I was 16, I think, at that age, 15, 16, you know, did Project 28 off the record. But you just sparked off, like recovery is just given me so much, you know, like, and from that hellhole to where your world's so small to like now my life is just so full.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like I've done some wonderful things, like, you know, done a TED talk, got headhunted to go to Dubai to do teaching, talk at my old school about where I got expelled from, about street cats and, you know, that full circle. And this is all because of the program. And, you know, I've been able to get into fitness, meet you.
And because you've worked it, right?
Yeah.
It only works if you work.
And meet people like yourself, like other like close people who have, you know, you've helped me massively, Ollie, on this journey as well. I don't think you realise, like, you know, because we do have a common, but, you know, and that is it. It's that therapeutic thing, isn't it, of like where we have that understanding and connection. And I think, like, you know, people can, if they can just like I think and I you know, I think once it, you know, it's what it is, like back then to what it is now, it's like completely different. Do you know what I mean? It is just completely different. And like I can't thank like your support and like the bar fitness as well, with like even like at Tonic and here at Cali, like the community here is just awesome.
The next question I was going to ask. So,
you know?
what's been the role of fitness in your journey in recovery? Like, massive shout out to Tonic, to Fly, a lot more.
James Iverson.
Good old Iverson. He's up in Singapore, isn't he? But absolute amazing at Tonic with their incredible community, amazing coaches. I always say this, it's just like CrossFit, right? Just amazing gym. We're so lucky in Bath that we have so many different communities, so many different gyms, so many different amazing people running like in all these facilities. It's like, I can't really relate to recovery anyway, but it's just like there's no competition. You know, it's like 88% of the UK hasn't got a gym membership. That's what everyone needs to be going after. You know, it's like, and I'm so thankful for all of the local studios, local gyms for helping me to get into this whole space and understanding and the gifts that people give me in terms of their time and everything. We've got an amazing community out there. It really is fantastic. So talk to me about your journey with fitness and how that's helped you.
Hey, it's helped me massively. Like, I mean, considering like when I was in my active addiction and alcoholism, like I had a membership, but I never used it. Like it was just waited away until I had no money to, you know, whatever. But and, you know, getting into recovery, like I didn't start my fitness straight away. You know, I've always been, like I said, I've always been sporty. Like at Beach and Cliff, I loved rugby. My rugby coach at the time said, if you carry on, you could go quite far. You know, like, and I love my sport today. And my nature is like, when I'm into something, I'm really into it. Do you know what I mean? Like I do climbing, I do Cali, I do CrossFit, I do everything. You know, once I get a taste of it, I'm like, yeah, give me more. But you know, which has its pros and cons, but at the same time, like, it's a good thing. Do you know what I mean? There could be a lot worse other stuff.
You know what I say with that? Classic addict mind, by the way. You'll see why, like arrogance and pride and all this kind of stuff. But you know, in all the superhero movies, at the start, they're like, oh, I've got this problem, I don't know how to deal with it. And they're ruining people's lives. I always think of like classic Superman story, right? And then they realize they can actually use it for good in the world. And when it goes from this like self-centered to selfless, giving, helping others, this thing that was seen as a crux is actually a really good thing. And that's what I've experienced in myself with fitness and everything. It's like, it's pretty not normal to run 100 miles in 4 days. You know, it's like, what fucking weird is that?
I do look at you, Ollie, I'm like, fuck me, like, that imagine like if he was on
behaviour, you know, and it's just like, well, the thing is during that I had 25 opportunities to post things on Instagram and YouTube to talk about this stuff.
And it's inspiring, man.
So
like,
same thing with you. It's like
inspiring.
Yes, we might push ourselves to extremes.
Yeah.
But if we can find that balance and we can really go for that, it can be such a useful tool for helping others.
Yeah, and that's what I found. Like, you know, I was in a relationship and put on a little bit of weight. Not gonna lie, like I was, you know, that way. And then, you know, when that relationship finished, I just found fitness as well.
Yeah.
Like, and I found out that, like, you know, this is also something which I really love and enjoy. And without my recovery, and this is something which is really important because I have to keep my recovery first. You know, recovery becomes first than anything else.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I lose everything. You know, so it comes first in fitness. You know, if I need to get to a meeting or a fitness class, I'll go to a meeting. Sometimes I'll go to a fitness class, you know, to get that endorphin, but it's not the same. You know, but it's different, isn't it? It's different. Like, you get that kind of, and that's what I love about it. It's like that connection, the fitness, like being with others, and, you know, doing this now, like, you know, like as part of what you're doing, Ollie, like sharing about it, you know, hopefully helping someone or passing that message, what we're doing. And, you know, it's down to, like, we're here in the gym and just talking about it, aren't we? And, like, you know, I actually,
it goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it really
definitely. And I can get myself in a little bit of a head spin about if I don't do too much. Like, I can get in a negative way about it, and that thinking, that stinking thinking can come on. But, you know, like, it's like I've had a bad back at the moment, and that's due, I'll be honest, that's due from just, like, overdoing it. And, you know, and I've really accepted it, though. Like, before I'd be like, I can't train, I can't do this. Yeah, I've probably said it once or twice and annoyed my girlfriend about it, but I've accepted it, and I've just been like, there's nothing I can do about it. You know, like, I've got these guys, when I do come back, they're going to be like, yeah, come on in, we'll show you how to, like, ease yourself in again. And, like, you know, and it's so important for the mental health, fitness, so important, because, like, I love getting up in the morning and going to the gym, and then I can end my evening with a meeting or whatever. You know, it's that balance of it. It's always a balance, you know, and fitness has always been a part, like, pretty much, like, these last 4 years has just been, and, like, I've been able to do some cool stuff. Like, we went to, like, a few of us went to, you know, Three Cliffs Bay, and done, like, just some cool stuff and connections and
high roxes
competitions. Man, like, I couldn't even, like, in my drinking and using, like, I would have laughed if I said, Eddie, you're going to be doing that. Like, so it's a huge difference.
Love it. Eddie, we're gonna finish up here, but I've got two questions really. Firstly is, how can people support us on the ride? Road to Recovery. That's really cool. But how can they support us? How can they get involved?
Cool, awesome. So this is really important, of course, to share. Like, we have got a Just Giving, and we have managed to raise about £578 already. Whoa, come on! And thank you so much.
Daddy posted about it.
Like,
great. What's the goal?
Well, we are aiming to do 9,000. But, you know, whether it's more or less, what's going to happen is we are going to split everything in for the 3 charities. So, but we are going to do a fundraiser on the 13th of May.
Cool.
At Boston Tea Party. And
13th of May.
13th of May. And we're going to share about what we're doing. You're going to obviously do a little talk, like what's happening, what's the cycle. But Also, we are going to hopefully get people to do part of the leg as well and donate. So obviously we're going north to south. So, somebody could do like Gloucester to Bristol. Yeah. This is the excitement of it, isn't it, Ollie? Or planning it ahead. We've got 8 months to train and recover and whatever. So we got 8 months to do this, and I'm really looking forward to it, mate. Cool, and I know the other guys are as well. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, so it's so cool. And for the members of the CaliUnity, so again, we'll put it in the calendar. The CaliUnity calendar is 13th of May. 13th of May. But also we'll be doing an event for the whole of May with the CaliUnity to raise as much money for that. So we haven't completely figured out yet, but something like £1 per mile or something. Get the whole community coming in together, doing it all with the group, or anything we can do to raise as much money as possible when it comes to that. But again, you know what? The money's cool, but really it's the awareness.
Exactly.
It's this stuff. It's talking about it. And again, just like my big thing for you guys, if this has helped you, just having that conversation. But the thing is there's something on your mind right now, right? That person's thinking about where whatever that thing is just really take that away from this. Maybe it's just talking to your friend who you know is struggling and not saying, hey, what's up? Just like, hey, whenever you need to call, like I'm there. Yeah. Or I can't even. You know what the most amazing thing ever in the world? It's just giving a smile to someone on the street, opening the door for someone. There's so many times when I've been so down, so low, so tired, and someone's come along, has given me a smile, opened the door, and I'm like, that feels so nice to have that. And on that note, that's going to be my thing for the week. But as a tradition of the podcast, Eddie, we're going to leave the CaliUnity with a habit for next week. Something that they do every day, whenever you want, just something that you felt has really helped you in your 8 years of sobriety, in your whole life. Last week, we had Carl on, and Carl said, just write down one thing that made you smile that day. Yeah. One gratitude.
That's really good.
From the day. And just try and stack as many of those together as possible, because that really is just happiness in life. So what would you say for the CaliUnity?
I'd probably say do something for nothing and not get found out about it.
Oh.
So, that could be, maybe visit,
picking up some litter on the street.
Picking up some litter, or, visiting someone in hospital, or anything like
anonymous donation.
Do something for someone but not get found out about it. I think
why is it so important not to get found out about it?
Because it's a way of giving back, but like you don't need to tell everyone like what you're doing.
I think for me with that, it just signifies the act of giving without having to get anything in response.
In return,
just realising that the act of giving is the most amazing thing we could ever do.
Yeah.
And it's the best. It's very selfish. It's actually an amazing feeling. It's nice.
Yeah.
But also, if you do it without getting found out, you eliminate that. Oh, what am I going to get in return?
Yeah.
You're just giving.
Yeah.
And that is, it's so powerful. So I love that. Nice one, mate.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Legend. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you, guys.
And hopefully come along on the 13th of May for the fundraiser.
Keep an eye out on
Eddie
Street Cuts and Cali and stuff.
Follow Eddie on the Instas, on the YouTubes, on the Facebook, all that kind of stuff. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
See ya.